Listen, Alex, let's talk about this new movie. There are a lot of pressures to doing a sequel, and you did one in 91. Of course, it was Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which was awesome. But there's a lot of pressure, right? One of my favorite comedies growing up, Alex, besides yours, of course, was the movie Dumb and Dumber, right? Legendary flick.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest with you, the Dumb and Dumberer, the sequel, I was extremely disappointed. That's not Jim Carrey's fault. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. It's just difficult.
That might have been the worst sequel in movie history.
It was very bad.
In comparison to how good the first one was.
Right, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is because, you guys were successful in 91, and I've heard some good reviews from this movie. I have no doubt it's fantastic. But it's a lot of pressure, isn't it? Isn't it, Alex, to have such a successful movie and then make another one, and now you made another one. And a lot of pressures with that, right?
I certainly look. We wouldn't have ignored the expectation and just been blasé about it. The earlier the band as it first got back together was Keanu and myself and Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon, the two writers, and we made a pact with each other when we first seriously considered making a third movie that, look, if we can't make this 100% to our own creative specifications, we're just going to bail out because none of us needed to make it, and no one felt the world definitively needed another Bill and Ted movie. Right. So it was like, okay, if we can support what these guys are going to go and write, and we can make something, and we eventually got our original producer back, Scott Krupp, and then we got Dean Pariseau, the director that we most wanted for this film. We made Galaxy Quest and a bunch of other movies that we loved. We just kind of became a very protective group around the creative.
Sure, that's important.
That's not to be cocky about it. It's not to say we know we made something great. It just meant that we attempted to make something great.
No, I mean, and I don't blame you. I don't blame you for doing that. And I'm so glad that they gave you the freedom to do that. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about the plot of this movie without giving too much away. I've seen the previews of it, right? They're not your own kids, but you have people playing your kids in this movie. Bill and Ted are now fathers. So can you talk a little bit about that and the plot of this movie that comes out Friday?
It's a totally sincere look at what these two guys are like at this age. And that's the kind of sweet, grounded human part of it. We're dads, we're husbands, we're real guys. But, of course, it being a Bill and Ted movie, like a few minutes in, we're told that given that we have managed to somehow slack off on writing the song that would save the world, as we were told we were supposed to by George Carlin many years ago, we now only have about an hour and 10 minutes to pull that off, or all of space time is going to end. So now the future is not particularly happy with us anymore.
I love it.
We get a kind of cosmic gun pointed at our head, and we're told, okay, knuckleheads, if you don't write this thing now, it's the end of everything. and thus begins an adventure we basically steal our phone booth from them, from the people we are the great leaders of the future, and we embark on a journey to figure out in what version of space-time we weren't complete losers. And it being a comedy, obviously, it takes us a while to find one where we're not complete losers, or actually far worse than any of the situations we're in at present.
It reminds me a little bit of Back to the Future meets Step Brothers, only you're going in the future meets like Step Brothers, where you got two guys that are your age that you need to get their life together. Is that kind of accurate, you think?
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think that the difference is that, Bill and Ted really aren't kind of like stunted child men.
Right.
And that's really, and that's very, very funny. Like I love Step Brothers, and I love both of those actors enormously, but we really did not want this movie to be, we're going to go back to this world that you haven't visited in 25 years. And these two characters have been frozen in time. And they're just like bro dudes as dads. We really wanted them to be the age they were, with the responsibilities they would have had at that age, love their kids, love their wives. Life has not gone the way they thought it was going to go. And that was a good jumping off point for us, for Keanu and myself, to figure out, how do you play these guys? And then, of course, the scenario we end up is completely insane and immediately takes off into this crazy direction.
Oh, absolutely. Does a hologram of George Carlin appear where he kind of tells you your destiny?
How did you know? You've seen the movie, right? I'm not going to spoil anything.
All right.
But I'm also not going to refute you.
Fair enough.
I like